Is Shakur Stevenson ready for Gervonta Tank Davis? Gets that ninth round stoppage against Josh Padley, who was a ranked lightweight. An electrician, had a great story, got the opportunity of a lifetime, didn't get the outcome he wanted to. You know, Shakur ultimately did his thing. He said in the post-fight interview that there are indeed levels to this sport, which is facts. I couldn't have put it in a better way. You know, he had good movement. According to Shakur, he had some good speed. But ultimately, you know, like Shakur said, and I said before, there's levels to this sport. And Shakur Stevenson just proven that he's on another level. It gets you hyped when you watch Shakur because he's so fluid with his motion, and he's just a good fighter. He knows his distance. He keeps you on the outside. He was touching him to the body. Got, you know, 3 knockdowns scored, and ultimately Josh Padley's corner threw the towel in. So shout out to Shakur for doing that and getting the job done. And, you know, let's talk about it. Is he ready for Tank? I think he's ready for Tank. Ultimately, you know, in terms of the skills and everything like that. I will say the biggest concern for me is Shakur's hands. You know, Shakur is prone to hand injuries. You know, they compared him to Floyd. You got to take the good with the bad, and the bad with the good, because ultimately he has the hand injuries like Floyd too. But unfortunately for Shakur, he hasn't had that big fight yet. At least Floyd had beaten, you know, such great names already in the sport before he had, you know, really had those hand problems. Shakur is, you know, having his coming out party, fought on a big Riyadh season card, and you know, hurts his hand again, you know, after having surgery. So it just makes you think, as good as Shakur Stevenson is, if his hands aren't 100% healthy, then how do you go from Josh Padley to a guy like Gervonta Tank Davis? Like, I just don't think it's a good fight, you know, especially if Tank is 100% healthy and then you have Shakur with a hurt hand. I just have a bad feeling we'd get some excuses if Shakur were to lose that fight. And I think, you know, let's talk my prediction for that fight. It hasn't really changed, honestly. I still think that as good as Shakur Stevenson is, trust me, every time I see him show out, you know, I'm always like, this kid's really talented. But it's just the power that concerns me. I understand he got the stoppage win, but it's also like who you're fighting. If, you know, Tank said something that made me think a little bit. Tank was talking about how Shakur hasn't fought anybody with a lot of power except for De Los Santos, and that singular fighter made him kind of move around more than he should have. And people talked about, you know, he had a hurt hand, and maybe that's true, but if we look at it, that was one of Shakur's weaker performances against the guy who has a lot of power. You know, stylistically, Shakur can pick apart a guy who only has power, but if he has power and boxing ability, then it's going to be a little bit difficult. And De Los Santos had both. So if you take Tank and put him in there with Shakur, as good as Shakur Stevenson is, I don't know if he'll be able to be busy enough to beat a guy like Tank, because he's going to have to get his offense off as well. And while he may dictate the pace and not get hit by the punches that, you know, we're expecting Tank to land early on against any other opponent, I think that eventually Shakur is going to have a little hole where Tank's going to land. You know, people always say Tank's, you know, just a knockout artist. I don't believe that. Me personally, I don't think Tank's just a knockout artist. Yeah, he fights with some emotion. You know, sometimes he doesn't stick to the game plan and gets wild, but I think that's what makes him dangerous. I think that's what makes him so special, is how unpredictable he is. Because you look at Frank Martin, you know, he went straight at Frank Martin. He stepped to Frank Martin. You look at Ryan Garcia, he waited it out more. You know, made Ryan Garcia waste some energy, get overzealous, and then land a big shot on Ryan Garcia. So Tank is versatile in that he can knock you out. He is a knockout artist, but he can do it however he wants. You know, he can wait. You know, you don't really know what he's going to do in that ring. I don't think Shakur knows exactly what Tank is going to do in that ring, but Tank knows what Shakur is going to do. It's just a matter of, you know, setting up that shot and finding habits that Shakur Stevenson, you know, has to find a slot for that shot, to land that big shot. You know, Freddie Roach always said, I don't look for mistakes, I look for habits. And that's what he did for Manny Pacquiao. That's how Manny was able to beat so many great boxers. Yeah, there were guys that were probably better boxers than he was, like Marquez, or, you know, obviously knocked him out. But in a lot of fights, you know, Manny was able to beat him and dismantle Marquez. And, you know, other great boxers, Timothy Bradley, you know, Margarito. These guys were great boxers, but Manny was able to find holes in their defense. But Shakur, obviously, you know, a defensive mastermind, but I just think that Tank will find a way to land that shot. That's just my opinion. I just don't see Tank allowing Shakur to go 12 rounds and survive it. I just don't think so. After all the talking that they've done back and forth, I just feel like Tank's going to find a way to get him out of there. So that's my opinion on Gervonta and Shakur. I think Shakur's hand is a little bit of something that's going to delay the fight, in my opinion, and it should, because I also don't want to hear excuses, you know, from either side or anybody. So I'd prefer if Shakur fixes his hand first, figures that out, you know, gets 100% healthy with both hands, and then he gets to that Tank fight. If he has to have Frank Martin before Tank, that's fine too. You know, there's no rush. It's only going to build the fight, but we do want to see Tank and Shakur real soon, at least this year. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next NAS Boxing video. Peace.